So before the episode proper, just a couple of things. This is the off tangent from Third World Gaming's latest episode, like their Halloween special. It ran a little bit long, so decided to release it as a standalone Bodega Nights episode. We recorded it in the middle of nowhere, so if you have like funny sounds in the background, that's sort of it. The microphones kind of screwed up, so did what I could with the audio just to salvage it, because I think some of the stuff we talked about is kind of interesting. And one of the unfortunate things that came of that was like Paolo's heavy breathing being featured quite prominently in the foreground. So we're kind of sorry for that. Well, I'm sorry for not being able to do anything about it. Yeah, so enjoy, I guess, and happy Halloween.
And if you got to this point, welcome to the Off Tangent section with special guests David and Zhao.
Hey. Yeah, off tangent.
Anyway, so guys, we've been talking about monsters. So how about you? What's your favorite monster? A bit like what do you think we've been talking about? You know, the monster within.
I would actually, yeah.
The monster with it.
If I were to think of a monster that would defy all monsters, it's still the dragon, dude. Sorry.
Like when you say, actually, it's amazing. When people say dragon, what are you referring to? Because there's a whole bunch of dragons.
Exactly.
So many kinds. Wyverns, wyverns, the Chinese serpent dragons, and your standard Western fantasy dragons, and they're portrayed in different lights.
Actually, that's exactly the point. The dragon by itself is a whole mass of different types of monsters. You can be so creative with it. You can create so many things with it that basically it has an unlimited potential to be a monster.
I can attest that. Dragons aren't like unlimited by definition. They're actually dragons are grounded in reality. Insofar as there's this theory out there, like the question was posed: what did the ancients think when they saw fossils in dinosaur bones?
I'm pretty sure they'd be thinking dragons just because they would assume it just been dead, a few months ago versus,
Right?
millions of years or such.
So, like, if you happen upon, like, the neck of a brachiosaurus or something, like, you would think, dragon.
Yeah. And every culture had one, meaning that, the only thing really uniform among all of them is the fact that, well, there were dinosaurs.
So we're virtually limitless with the exception of, well, the only limitation that we have is they have to look like dinosaurs.
That, or they had to be in that, or a number of depictions of dragons were actually based on the perception of certain cultures about reptiles. Like, for example, Norm, be sure you kill and eat things with that crocodile, okay?
Moving on. But yeah, dragons are pretty cool, though.
Eat things. Eat things.
Basically, in almost every video game I've seen that
No, it's fine.
fantasy
No,
based,
you can-
there's one version of a dragon or another.
Yeah.
And you usually end up as the hardest thing to kill or hardest thing to fight.
Or if you're in Final Fantasy, they become your summons.
Yeah.
Like Bahamut.
You still have to kill
The
them.
space dragon.
You still have to defeat it first before you get to summon it.
Although the
Not
dragons
all the time.
Do dragons count as monsters in this regard?
Well, that
Like,
one's
under
actually...
your definition.
Monsters are a very hard thing because back in the 80s, all the way 70s and 80s, they would just be monsters. However, you look at the newer games from the past 2000s, where like a good example is Skyrim, where dragons are not per se monsters. They are actually have their own identities. They have their peoplehood in a sense.
Oh, so it's like personhood.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you look at it in that regard, you also mentioned before that the monster has evolved when it's actually even gaining a sense of personhood.
True, but the difference between the personhood of the dragon versus like something like, to say, what we call the Slenderman. Slenderman has no personhood in a sense. I mean, there's really no personality whatsoever or any visible sentience versus the dragons who have their own thing going on with them. The reason Slenderman is for us as a monster because he is a personification of what we are.
I have my... Okay, we were talking about this over dinner, so like Miko's leading us into this. Yeah, because we at Channel 14, we like to show our seams. We like the whole full disclosure thing. Open source! While we were having dinner, like I was listening to Miko and Paulo record, right? So these are my theories on monsters. It is pretty much like society's greatest fear, right? Mm-hmm. So like Godzilla, for example, is a monster. Was born of the fear of nuclear like war, right? Like the nuclear fallout, etc., creates this monster. So the explanation for zombies is like we fear losing our individuality and becoming part of like this nameless mass of humanity, overpopulation, etc. Like that's what zombies represent, and that's a very like 21st century sort of fear. I would think that Slenderman, in a way, is not necessarily the fear of us, but the fear of losing who we are. So say like, because like he has no face.
Yeah.
And he is in a suit, right? So that's like, that is like becoming one of those corporate drones that is part of the nameless, faceless mass that is contemporary humanity.
Corporate zombies.
The fear of every man. 8 to 5. 6 days a week.
But then,
Norm has no such fear.
Could be worse. Could be 8 to 6. 6 times a week.
It's like just 1 extra hour more, but yeah.
No, and an extra day.
I did say 6 times a week.
Yeah, okay.
I'll talk to you guys about that law next year.
What?
That's when we take up labor.
Oh, okay.
So are you saying that essentially now, dragons are not really monsters?
Well, right now, because dragons, even in more common media, especially you remember Dragonheart? Where the dragons finally could have a speaking line and was seen to have, you actually have thoughts and desires and beyond what we imagine of being this bloodthirsty, fire-breathing monster who will eat me because I'm trying to take your stuff.
Well, one example is that the dragons are still considered monsters actually is a more literal version. Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is a game that basically focuses on destroying and capturing and probably eating or selling different monsters.
Capturing is a rare thing to do. Yeah. It's mostly killing.
Yes, but the whole point is, dragons, they still consider it as a type of monster.
True, but that's also going to say like Pokemon. These are also monsters, but you can see that they seem to have their own individuality, and some who can speak, such as Mewtwo or even Mew. It's a lot more than monster. I mean, we see it's monster because they're non-humans.
Well, the thing with what I was getting at with the monster thing is something that I see as common throughout all monsters is that they all seem to have a sense of personhood, right? Or there's some sort of identity. Whereas like it's the distinction between a monster and a beast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So like, would you consider the dragon a monster or a beast?
Depends, really. I mean, there's
it
some
would
that work.
depend on the case. For me to identify as a beast, I'd have to see if it is essentially just an animal. But for me to identify as
instinctual in nature.
For me to identify as a monster, I would have to be able to identify some aspect of you, some aspect of the thing that makes it, I won't say sentient, but something that is close to a shred of sentience.
I mean, if we look at like evolution, which had that weird dragon-like thing, and we look at like some other mythos that had dragons be fire-breathing or ice-breathing, we consider them almost beast-like.
Animals,
but then you
really.
have things like Parthenax, then you have Braveheart's dragon, Smog, or even Mushu of all things.
Yeah. How to Train Your Dragon, that's what I was going for.
Oh, Hiccup, yeah. Hiccup is dragon.
Basically in the same way
Toothless.
as Pokemon, in that sense.
But even Toothless, though, I would actually call Toothless more of a beast than personhood, just because he acts more like an animal than he does anything with a personhood. With the exception of maybe the larger great dragons that seem to have more individuality to them, but the smaller ones seem more beast-like.
Alright, so to the pedantic people out there, because I know you're out there, when we mean personhood, we don't mean humanity.
Yes.
We're probably referring
all Humegrad, so yeah.
We're probably referring to, I don't know, would referring to sentience be what we're trying to refer to, or something else?
Personality.
Personality, okay.
Right, we're looking at personality because like Godzilla does not have. Arguably, Godzilla didn't have sentience in his original incarnation.
No,
like,
he was
only eventually that.
No, in fact, his initial appearance, they were trying to pass him off as a force of nature.
Right, but then he was sort of distinctly. He was
savior of children.
But he had a personality.
Yeah.
Right, as Godzilla, so that elevated him to the level of monster, beyond the mere beast.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just a thought.
Okay.
Just spitballing here, y'all.
But I mean, the whole idea of how monsters, I mean, we even talked about further on how monsters evolved to what they were as, yes, Zhao said they're generally a reflection, or we put up the reflections of society. And also, as Zhao put up and during our talk was, it's what we fear. The monster is what we fear. And back in the 70s and 80s where, you know, our fears were generally, if it wasn't the Cold War or Vietnam, it was, well, Hollywood, media. And back then, the popular things were the Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, mummy, skeletons, the basic ghouls. Until you hit the 90s, which were a grittiness to it. And the gritty thing then was the occult.
Yeah, and that's like remember when the whole Satanism scare came out, right? So like the monsters of that, were born of that sort of, we found a slaughtered goat in the middle of a pentagram, like.
Okay.
Man, that was a wild night.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's generally reflects in the 2000s period when we saw, well, that was the height of, you know, the beginning of the war on terrorism as well as other bits of hysteria. And you saw a change also of the monster then, which was more human-like, and since that we could relate to it, and since he was disfigured or what's another way to say it? Is a monster that remind us of us, but was just completely,
but falls just short of humanity.
Yeah.
Vampires.
Oh, I'm sorry, the vampires of 2000, the only one I remember was Twilight because it was so horrible.
No.
Or is that like, maybe that's a monster we can look at too?
Actually, right now, there's a better version. I haven't watched the movie, but I actually want to.
Dracula, yeah. This is pretty good. I mean, I want to watch that.
The new Dracula?
Yeah.
The one that released like a week
It
ago?
looked awesome. It's basically put Dracula into a different perspective. I don't know if it'll work, but hey, why not? It basically made him, the point of him taking in vampiric qualities was actually a point of him trying to save his city, his country, and his family.
So was it Count Dracul turned Dracula?
No, he was already labeled as Dracula. I don't really understand it. We'll find out if I watch.
Son of Dracul.
Okay.
If Alucard popped out, that'd be amusing. But
well,
yeah,
considering the fact that he has a son there, well.
And yeah, I mean, again, going to the most recent monsters, I mean, like, again, the ones I keep hearing about, to see when you look at Let's Plays, other things online, it's Five Nights at Freddy, which, again, it's honestly a fairly boring game.
Right.
And the feeling of fear I get out of it is being helpless. The fact that you're putting fear just because you've seen everyone else play it and you see how they react, so you're kind of getting ready for that scare. And I guess the fact that just the sound, the audio cues, which I find always to be a big cheat when it comes to Western media, is the audio cue cheats. Especially with movies where, you know, they set the music and everything, then just shock you.
Yeah.
Shock games. So
Not even shock games, even Western culture has to do that with music. I mean, look at their Ring compared to Japanese Ring.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Wreck.
Yeah.
That one was.
It's got to be used properly.
Yeah.
It's like the way you use sound versus silence. In terms of what's it? In terms of how to get a scare. Like if it's done well, it's done really well, and it has to work well with the visual element. So say that old I absolutely forgot what it's called, but like you have that rising sort of music. And then all of a sudden it's silent and then something happens.
Yeah.
Like if that's done properly, then
True, but I find it to be cheating because it's setting up your emotions.
Yeah.
Versus when you see, let's say, like Korean, Japanese, or Chinese film where essentially what they go is, it's all normal, then evil happens. Kind of like that's what I enjoy about, I think, Stephen King stuff was it's normal, then evil happens sort of thing.
yeah.
That's kind of what I found chilling because after the movie, you're still afraid. Because real life doesn't have a soundtrack. Real life doesn't have these audio cues.
Yeah.
But you can see that thing just happen. And that's why I appreciate in some of the games also where, at least when you see the new monsters, it's something that we can find more scary because we see it in real life. We see that whole concept. I mean, sure, we might not see animatronics. Sure, we might not see, you know, the Slender Man everywhere. But that fear is true. And it's more reflective of what we are. Versus the monsters of the 80s, 70s, and even the 90s, which were just scary-looking things.
Well, I feel the need to defend scoring because like that's my discipline.
Yeah.
If you notice the score,
I like the videos, so, you know.
but if you notice the score, it's a bad score. Right? So it's always got to be like subtle, and it always has to be subservient to the visual element. So, like if you're noticing the music, then it is a poorly scored movie. So, like, yes, it might be a cheat, but it becomes a cheat if it's poorly done. If it's done properly, it becomes a tool.
I still agree that, especially with Silent Hill, which uses a radio, because it's a noise you can actually interact with in real life. I think that's what I liked about this. You can hear static.
Yeah.
And that's something I didn't appreciate, I guess, with like Slenderman is there was a static aspect to it, which I enjoyed, but then you hear like the weird noises that just made no sense, like the foley of the bells, the weird ding, ding, like no, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, so
I enjoyed the whole sensation of the audio equipment messing up.
Yeah.
Because I can see that happening in real life. That would scare me if I'm going out there and then my radio starts crackling. I would be freaked out by that.
Yeah, it's like but looking
So I
at
guess I
it
would
like
be freaked out by a sudden foley popping out.
yeah. Like in terms of movies though, like if you have like that single shrill violin in the background while you have like the footsteps and the wind and crickets. Right? Like that violin shouldn't be noticed but should be felt. Unless you're specifically looking out for the score.
Oh, okay. Like you?
Yeah. or at least that's how a good score should be.
I like even the monsters, the movies then, like Jurassic Park was the 90s.
Yeah.
It was just monsters we could really like see. I mean, dinosaurs were, I guess, the monster at some point, even though they were pretty damn cool.
Yeah, they are.
Dragons. Yeah, actually, though, when it comes to the aspect of them being monsters, I guess it also depends on the age of the person. I mean, during the time when we were younger, we watched Jurassic Park. Heck, I was afraid. I was scared of that T-Rex. But right now, I'm like, damn, that's an awesome piece of work.
I think all of us were like scared of T-Rexes at one point in our lives.
I wasn't. Like when I saw the T-Rex, I was there to see the T-Rex when I was a little kid.
Paulo Zaxel, everybody. I do not fear the dragon. I do not feel the T-Rex.
No, like
Fears me.
no, I want it. Like I want to. Like I don't know. It's like something. Like I want to get a game where I'm the T-Rex.
I mean, like say like the idea of
There's a game out like that right now.
Yes, there's.
I guess it's a different type of like fear that you get though from like the beast or the monster, as opposed to say like your sort of creepy. It's the creepy versus the like, oh my god, let's run. It's like you have like when you see a T-Rex like right in front of you, that is triggering the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like that's one type of scare. The other type of scare is not sure whether you're going to have your fight or flight response triggered.
Oh yeah, that anxiety.
Yeah,
up.
that's it. That's like they term it as like the monster under the bed that could be there, as opposed to like the full frontal of the monster in.
Actually, first, I actually prefer seeing the full frontal monster versus the under the bed because that uncertainty really is
right. Like that's the stuff of the best horror movies.
I mean, just come out, I'll take you on.
First off, one thing about horror, especially horror movies, one of the worst I would say is still Psycho.
Why?
I know because there I spent most around.
You stayed away from showers all day.
I couldn't close the light. I couldn't even bear to stay in the bathroom without the door open. Until I was 8.
Well, to be fair, you were younger then.
I was scared, Chucky.
I think we all were, Paulo.
Yeah, kind of. And to be fair, it's like with Freddy, with like
Freddy versus Jason?
No, not so much Freddy, but more so Jason. It's like okay, try to sleep then me in bed.
I was scared of Freddy. I actually enjoyed Jason. I found him to be a very misunderstood monster. I mean, he was just, a very, very virtuous monster type thing.
I think like the difference between Freddy and Jason is the same distinction as the monster under your bed and the dinosaur.
Granted, that was when I was younger.
because Jason is the guy that's like right up there, and
Yeah, he does his thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
And whereas Freddy is like, I don't want to go to sleep.
Oh yeah, and then you have these weird hallucinations in the movie where you just fell asleep.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know.
Well, you have to look at the movie. There was a Freddy vs. Jason movie, and Jason did win.
That's actually debatable because Freddy was still alive. But I am a big Jason fan, so I'd say Jason won.
Yeah. I have to root for Jason. I'm sorry. It's like I vote for his camp.
And plus, he seems to be more. I find to be more a good guy, like a misunderstood good guy, kind of like the Punisher, sort of.
So
I mean, he's a very, very messed up Punisher in a sense.
We didn't talk about the
Okay.
Punisher in our comic book podcast.
He needs
Yeah,
another
that
movie.
would have been a long, dark road. Then you have to talk about Frank and Punisher, Castle, and yung
Franken
Frank
Castle.
Castle.
Yeah,
And, no, let's not go there, please.
Well, I mean, he's kind of like a more, messed up Batman for me.
Franken Castle is essentially
Actually, he's Batman's dad, essentially.
Wouldn't he be Jason? Wouldn't he technically be Jason with guns?
Actually, again, that was shown that Jason couldn't keep a light towards Castle.
You know, if this off tangent goes on long enough, I'm releasing this as the Bodega Nights Halloween special.
Well, that's true, but we need to get Norman.
I'm sure he'll pop in at one point in time, but actually, the horror movies also something that changed throughout the years. I mean, before it really was just like simple monsters,
Yeah,
and then the
yeah,
later one became more of a psychological terror or things again representation. I mean, the devil
sorry about earlier, no.
from the 70s
earlier,
until
but,
today
it
had a
it
huge
really went
change in appearance.
Yeah,
man.
we're sorry about like that. Yeah. Anyway,
Oh, the devil. You mean, what's his name?
Beelzebub.
No.
Mephistopheles?
Mephistopheles.
Mephisto.
I really just rather avoid horror in any form.
No, I think they're talking.
Come on, I mean, just because we're in a dark, empty farmhouse surrounded by fog
And
with
darkness.
unknown things there and a gigantic wolf dog outside
With a
doesn't
person-
mean you should be scared.
You're forgetting the man with questionable sanity.
Yeah,
No.
and Paolo.
Yeah, I thought he was
no.
referring to me. Guys.
No, I remember now. The best depiction of the devil was Al Pacino.
Really, my best rendition of Devil was Prada. Great book and movie. You should check it out.
Which one?
Devil was
Devil
Prada.
Wears Prada.
Be great.
Next thing you know, we're going to be
horrible.
quoting that the Elizabeth Hurley devil from what's that movie? Well, the one with Brendan Fraser.
But really, the devil really changed. I mean, even that one that's an instinct look of the devil. For me, the most memorable one for some reason is the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
For me,
End of Days.
End of Days. That was an instant concept.
for me, it's always been him from the Powerpuff Girls.
Actually, no,
Why?
In fairness, him doesn't get as much attention as he, she, it should. But really instant character.
Oh yeah, yes, he is.
And he has the best fan art, fan fictions all around him, and they're so messed up, and he's so interesting to read.
Okay.
Just because he
Okay.
really is the devil. He does things simply because
Yeah,
He
because
is.
it's part of.
it's his nature.
Yeah.
It has nothing more to do. I mean, everyone else has a reason and a major MO.
A
He just does it.
motivation.
It's like he's the Joker of the Powerpuff Girls. That he does it because
Oh,
it's his nature.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
So
the
it's like-
Powerpuff Girls had a Joker, huh?
No, the Joker did things because. Some said it because it's funny. Some said for
No.
this thing, but
Because he just wanted to.
yeah,
no, and because
to
he
his
wanted
nature.
because he wanted to and he could.
yeah, it was his nature. Something like how him does things.
Yeah.
But he never got that. But that's an interpretation of the devil in a sense. Then you have the more modern, which seems more human-like almost.
Yeah.
Like he's simply just a guy. He's like a more human that's willing to do things just because he can.
Yeah.
Versus this overwhelming demon that can just alter reality, like in Omen. Like Omen was scary, but then you see like other ones where it's not presented like that anymore. Even in games, he's
There
not
was that
presented.
horror
like that.
movie about a bunch of people that went to outer space and encountered the devil.
What?
Is that the one like Event Horizon?
Yeah.
Oh, that was a weird one.
Okay.
Thing?
Yeah, Event Horizon
was
was a thing, and it was
strange.
really interesting in its own way. Well, I mean, there's so much episode. Even like the Wolfman, how it changed, the Mummy, how it all evolved.
Oh, Or you mean how the Wolfman suddenly had abs and could
Okay, I was referring more underworld where they called lichens, but yeah, we can go there.
Oh gosh, seriously, we're going there.
Let's establish the rules. Establish canon.
But gosh, I hate how like the zombie for like warm bodies was used, even though the story warm bodies had nothing to do with a romance.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, how it evolved, like the Wolfman from being this werebeast, it became something more human for some reason.
Well, it's sort of
Especially with Martin McFly,
Okay.
the thing with
the Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf.
the thing with
So
with the
Michael J.
werewolves.
Fox.
The thing with werewolves is their nature as being part man, part beast, right? And each generation, gradiates, I guess is the word. Like there are different gradations of like, are you more human or are you more like lichen or more wolf, right? And that's sort of how you play around with it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see, like you said, they become more human as time has gone on. Yeah. I have a point there somewhere, but I really have to go to the bathroom, so like, excuse me.
Yep. So I'll go back to Zhao, but even like the mummy, how the mummy is shown as this very stiff figure.
Yes.
Remember, like the old movies where the mummy was barely moved, was wrapped in
Barely moved
things.
or had
Then you
to.
have Imhotep.
And then you have
Imhotep, yes.
Yeah.
Who suddenly has all these magical powers. Not to
And-
mention the ability to transform into this bald dude.
I think it's still close
It's
to canon
and super
because it
strength
was-
and buffness.
But it still tied into the canon just because it was the curse of the mummy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, with Imhotep, with the mummy, it's with the mummy in general, the movie where you have Imhotep, you could argue that it's transcending of the mummy ideology, where before, where the mummy was in effect a zombie wrapped up in bandages, this time you had this mummy with supernatural powers, which because it broke the tradition of what normal mummy is. You expect your expectations are shifted. Actually,
They
obliterated.
pivot.
Yeah, they
Okay.
pivoted.
Am I the only person that finds Imhotep such an unfortunate name for a monster?
Impotent.
Actually, my brother made a joke before that was funny as heck when we watched the first movie. It's like, remember the time when they were chanting Imhotep, Imhotep,
Yeah.
and then we kind of realized it was Christmas. So it was Jingle Bells, Jingle Bells.
Why would you have the mummy as part of a Christmas special?
Were you chanting for him?
No.
No, remember in the movie, that's how he escaped being like attacked by the hypnotized public.
Okay.
But even like the monsters were changing. Even the newest monsters again, like they're trying to make monsters seem more like people, and the enemies being really people.
Okay.
And even like even Underworld, like the enemy there wasn't really each other, but the politics behind everything between the lichens and the vampires. It's like the enemies of man, and the real monsters were not real monsters, but men themselves, the politics behind them, and these strange ambitions.
Okay.
And then they were even given like a hierarchy. They were even given a background story that allowed you to give them that's not just simply as monsters, but an actual society.
I have an explanation for that. What's it, right? Like the humanization of the monster. There was a time, right, when the monsters capitalized on the fear of otherness.
Yeah.
And the way you showed otherness was to show how radically different something was, or something is, right?
Yeah.
But then there's also the case to be made that if something is almost human, like the uncanny valley, that highlights the otherness just as much.
Okay.
Just a thought.
That's an interesting thought. No, I guess even like Zhao said before about the zombies. Well, yeah, I mean, alongside the zombies, the reason why zombies have always never gone out of style, I mean, their popularity varies. It can go really low, it can go really high, but they never disappear simply because, yeah, it's the fear of losing individuality and, well, people in general. And I mean, the whole idea that people want this zombie apocalypse is more to be freed of this thing or be able to fight this personification of this thing they fear. I mean, when people want a zombie apocalypse, it's not because they actually want one, but more they want that reason to break out of this mold they feel they're getting wrapped up into.
Basically, in our society today, we're stuck doing everyday things, everyday jobs over and over again. A zombie apocalypse
breaks that mold completely.
Yeah, so
and suddenly you're free of this monster and allowed to fight this monster without repercussion.
And it's a 2-for-1 because at the same time, while you're breaking the monotony of your own everyday life, you are symbolically overcoming, or you are overcoming the symbolic monotony that is the horde of zombies.
Yeah.
So it's a twofer.
Yeah, I mean,
Twofer.
even look at the concept of the vampire. The vampire's main personification, in fact, even the Twilight's idea was the vampire was a personification of that, dirty old man, essentially. I mean, even the Bram Stoker's was this person who tried to attract young women. Kind of Twilight. But, Twilight said it's okay, whereas Bram Stoker said don't do that. It's still another fear that's being personified. Frankenstein's monster was, Zhao put the science going too far, but was also a bit of misunderstanding things.
Yeah. Well, the thing about Frankenstein is it's...
Frankenstein's monster.
No, well, the thing about Frankenstein, the story,
Yeah.
right, is you can read it as like an early example of one of those "we are the monster," because you can also look at it as you see Frankenstein's monster, and whether or not it is evil, right? We as a people decided to take it out.
Yeah.
Right, so
You are different. We shall destroy you.
yeah.
actually, you can also put into point there, no? When Zhao said we are monsters, what is Frankenstein's monster made up of? Different people, different pieces of people. Aren't we similar in terms of personality? We're built up of influences from different people.
Wow, that's actually a really deep way to look at the Frankenstein's monster as being a hodgepodge of different cultures, societies, ideals personified, and us trying to go against it.
Zhao is rubbing off me.
Okay. That sounds interesting.
It's also
Wait.
pretty literal.
Are you trying to say that Frankenstein is a representation of multiculturalism?
Actually, more multifaceted thinking and ideals.
Well, no, because Dr. Frankenstein got all of the parts from the same cemetery.
Okay.
Yeah, and back then they
can't be
didn't mix people.
multicultural, yeah.
No, back then they didn't mix people in cemetery. Unless it was the poor people cemetery.
Okay.
So, still, it can't be multicultural.
Yeah,
You're just in
but
the
it's
one cemetery.
multifacets.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, monsters, I guess that the popular monsters really were representation. Even the aliens, like the Greys. The Greys, which, what people see is the, big-headed, big eyes, small, lithe bodies and such. They were more representation of the unknown more than any other thing. Because, really, I mean, if you think about it, how is that frightening? It's a big, bulbing head with eyes.
Yeah.
And like Slenderman, I mean, it's not exactly frightening when you just perceive it. Like, it's different.
Yeah.
But it's not inherently frightening, nor is it really that creepy.
Yeah.
But it's the idea we put behind that this is an unknown, it's capable of doing things we don't understand. And maybe it's just, again, man fears things he don't understand.
Fear of the unknown.
And that's what made the enemies of the 80s and 70s games kind of acceptable. Because, hey, we don't understand you, you are obviously not us, so we are okay with completely wiping you out.
Where in the video games of today, we don't know because they may look like us, but they may be monsters within.
And even like Amnesia, it's obvious that these monsters weren't simply just monsters.
Yeah, but the whole point is they were scared.
Yeah, they were quite frightening.
We are referring to the first Amnesia game, right?
Actually, most of the Amnesia games, really.
No, because I know that the most recent one was the scariness was debatable. But to be fair, it was made by the same. But to be fair, I think it was Amnesia: The Dark Descent, the most recent one. That one was made by the Chinese room.
Hey.
No, the developers who also made Dear Esther.
Not real that
Dear Esther is really hard to argue about Dear Esther as a game.
that? Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
What
there's
is it?
very little you can do
Yeah,
in Dear Esther aside from,
yeah.
walk around and listen to this audio book.
Those were the guys that made the most recent Amnesia game.
Well, at least we can say Amnesia is a game.
It's up for argument.
But most of these monsters, even let's say 3D transform, growing up, you saw a change of your media, you saw a change of your fears, and it seems like these monsters just grew with us. It's something as a kid, I think we saw it most as a kid because Paolo grew up with part of the older generation of gaming. You saw how the monster evolved with us almost, that it seemed to match our fears. Maybe the the younger generation, more recent ones, don't see it. They just say, hey, this is cool, this is interesting. But we saw that development of maybe even us as people, that this is how we evolved as a culture in society, in our fears and perceptions.
I am afraid that in the future, the vampire no longer sucks blood, but Wi-Fi.
Oh gosh, the Wi-Fi vampire, that's an interesting concept.
And you can see all the children of...
Frankenstein's monster is a Hackintosh.
The children of today, no! Ah! And we're like, really?
But I mean, that's also a fear. I mean, the fear of disconnecting. I mean, this is a reality where actually people who recently visited the farm, the only thing they hated so much about it was there's no Wi-Fi. And for me, that's it's a very moot point. But for the younger generation, I guess that is a major factor, that losing the ability to connect beyond like the people you see is just absolutely frightening to them.
So, Miko, are you saying that the Wi-Fi vampire is actually plausible?
I mean, not maybe that the Wi-Fi vampire per se, but that might be something that people would fear, that an ability to connect to that world that they spend most of their life in. I mean, the real world versus the digital world, the younger generation spends most of their time in the digital world. The real world just becomes a point of rest versus any point. Maybe the real world for them is the actual leisure, and the digital world for them is their actual life. Losing connection, that is just suddenly throwing you into a whole new world, and you're like, what is this? How do I interact?
Do we want to make a movie out of this?
I'm pretty sure there might be a movie about this. There's an interesting book, actually. It's a different kind of zombie story.
Yeah.
Which was actually played with social media, which is one reason why I hate it so much.
Yeah.
I think it's called Feed, where there's a zombie that pops up and people were just connected via the social media.
Yeah.
And it says, oh my gosh, this is the point. I mean, they're more... The fear there was more losing social media than it was the zombies per se.
I can't post selfies of my zombies.
Essentially, I mean, for lots of people, that inability to have that ability to just connect things, like the use of Twitter message, the weird Instagram or anything. Heck, even you guys here, when you got the nice photo of the galaxy outside, were kind of bummed out a bit by unable to post that on Instagram immediately. I mean, I think Norm got that feeling.
No, not really. Although, like, yeah, I guess it's the fear of like lack of human contact, like we have who is it? Aristotle. Man is a social animal, right? Like, what's it? It is in our nature to interact, with each other, and the fear of losing that is something that is unnatural,
But the thing is, the concept of the internet per se is really unnatural. Can we really see it as true human interaction? Because I mean, I like the point of the internet where we share ideas, get to converse and such. But is that really where we're going to in terms of human interaction? That touchless, no physical interaction whatsoever.
Well, it is an aspect of human interaction. Because like what we do here, what we're doing now, is exchanging ideas. Right now, imagine an internet with no latency whatsoever, where we can have the same sort of experience that we have now, minus us being
face to
face, right? Like that is a significant aspect of it. It's sort of like how you can survive without a pinky.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you don't want to lose your pinky.
Okay.
I mean, even showing it like one of the biggest fears they had before when it comes to major global disasters. I mean, not like biological annihilation, was the EMP strike that might come out from a solar flare. I mean, the biggest fear of that was really being knocked back so far down in technology that the world became whatever you saw, not beyond it. And that, for a lot of people, was actually very frightening, that suddenly the distance of one place or another suddenly became astronomical, even though nothing ever changed.
Yeah, GoldenEye. So basically, from nuclear weapons, it became simply wiping out technology.
Yeah. And that seems to be the new monsters coming out. Something like, maybe not a Wi-Fi vampire, but a technology vampire or something that just that somehow disconnects you.
There was what was it? I'm not sure if it was like an actual movie or where I got it, but like the idea of the monster that travels through electrical wires.
I'm pretty sure it's not Technovore from like either Marvel or DC.
Like I can't remember, but like I know that there was something out there that was, it might have been like an X-Files episode or something.
Sounds like an X-Files episode.
There's sort of a horror movie. I forgot what it was called. It was kind of like The Grudge.
One missed call?
No. It was similar to The Grudge, but it traveled through the Wi-Fi or something. Anyway, so one of the things that the protagonists or your survivors had to do when they had to rush through an internet farm, a server farm, try to shut everything down, so that this ghost could no longer haunt them or something.
But it's not such a thing that just has to be the new generation. The fact that your technology is being used by some sort of outside force being a monster.
But
Yeah, that's actually like an interesting study. If anybody out there in the Fifth 14 is into psychology in any sort of way, this could be like an interesting study for you to do. You know, like if I were doing psychology, I'd probably do that. Like where does that come from? You know,
That fear of disconnection.
yeah, the fear of disconnection. My gut is telling me it's linked to the primordial fear of the dark.
I
And
would,
it's weird dark.
yeah, I would also argue that it could also it's a combination of fears, like your fear of the dark, your fear of the unknown, the helplessness, because the thing that you depended on the most turns out to be the thing that you cannot depend on at all.
Actually, that feel of helplessness because the internet has given people this weird feeling of invincibility. And losing that such removes that feeling of invincibility, the anonymity of the internet.
Yes.
Suddenly being forced to interact in the real world removes that shield that you once had.
Yeah,
But I would like to think though that like that again it isn't that people will totally disconnect from meat space.
I hate how that word's a word.
Like,
I try not to use it.
like going back to like the hand, like you need to exist in the real world in the same way that you need a thumb, right? The digital world serves like more like the role of a pinky, where like you can't have a proper online existence without a proper like physical existence. So yeah.
But the thing is, you see the newer online personalities or the people who are becoming big on the net, be they YouTubers, bloggers, such, you start to wonder that, is what's being represented in their digital life really proportional to what's existing in their real life? Because you see some people who are popular bloggers, I met some, their real life is the most dull, boring thing you've ever seen, yet their digital life seems to be so full and amazing.
Yeah, but then that doesn't remove their real life.
And also, you have to take into account then, for the people involved, for the people who are actually blogging about their lives, it might seem boring for them. But for the people who have different lives, different walks, it might be the most interesting thing they've ever encountered.
So you think...
So you're saying this is also a matter of perspective.
Yes.
Okay.
You could also think of it this way, like the event itself isn't that exciting, but what is eliciting the excitement is the act of blogging about the event.
And like
Showing the
mere
excitement, basically.
Now we talk about this. Now imagine that all of us are all of a sudden disconnected from our ability to do this. That's the fear.
So it's the fear that the disconnection or being stripped of what made you, you, or stripped of
Yeah.
your abilities. It's like being, I guess maybe in older days, it's like being stripped of your access to books, media, leisure in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like having your library card confiscated.
You mean World War II?
Do they have those now, library cards?
Yeah.
Showing our age. Zhao Tianzi, 1986.
But yeah, it's that fear.
Yeah, at its core, it's stripping you of whatever makes you not feel vulnerable. And you just keep prodding and that vulnerability.
Because I'd like to imagine that if it was a Mad Max today, would be the most frightening thing for you, not because of the barbaricness of it all, but the fact that you're disconnected from the things that you feel made you and your part of your life.
It could say going to Mad Max, right? Part of the fear could be, it's like in space, nobody can hear you scream.
Yeah.
It's like you're cutting off your lifeline, right? Because like, if we're out here in the farm and something happens, like we have one less way to call for help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that could be like another thing. that could be like another source of the anxiety.
And
David was like making like
Hand gestures.
hand gestures to Norm. Again, we like to show our themes here at Channel 14. It's yeah. What time is it?
It's
9:01.
Travel will be a bit dangerous.
Actually, no. We need to drive slow.
That's relative. Although there is like this one like really scary portion of the trip back to the city